Hi, welcome to my book club. If you're new here, hi, my name is Hunter. I'm a therapist, and together we're reading The Happiness Trap by Russ Harris. Today's video is Chapter 12, Hooked on a Feeling. If you need caught up on the previous book club videos, head to the link in the description, and make sure to subscribe. I put out videos like this every week. Without further ado, let's get into Chapter 12. Scientists have a hard time reaching any kind of consensus on what emotions are, but most experts agree on two things. 1. Underlying any emotion is a complex series of changes throughout the body, involving your brain, heart, lungs, etc. And 2. These physical changes prepare us for action. As these changes happen in our body, they give rise to sensations such as butterflies in the stomach, a lump in the throat, or a pounding heart. At the same time, urges arise to act in particular ways. For example, to cry, laugh, scream, or hide. The likelihood that we will act in a particular way when experiencing a particular emotion is called an action tendency. But notice the key word here, tendency. It doesn't mean that we have to do it, that we have no choice. So, for example, when you're anxious about running late, you might have the tendency to drive above the speed limit, but you can choose to drive legally and safely if you wish. However, as described in Chapter 2, the less our ability to unhook from our emotions, the less choice we have. In other words, the better our unhooking skills, the more control we have over our physical actions, our body posture, the words we say, and the movements we make. If we can control our physical actions when feeling strong emotions, this enables us to act in ways that get better results. We can feel anxious, but act courageously. Feel angry, but act calmly. The first skill we learned in this book was how to drop anchor, which offers a way to unhook from emotions while taking control of our physical actions. But that is just the very tip of the iceberg. Over the next few chapters, we'll explore what emotions are, the purpose they serve, how to unhook from them, and how to actually use them to enhance your life. We'll kick off with a look at the fight or flight response. As many of you know, the fight or flight response is a primitive survival reflex that originates in the midbrain. Our body floods with adrenaline, our muscles tense up, and our heart and lungs speed up. In truly dangerous situations, this response is life-saving. But in modern life, most of us rarely find ourselves in genuinely life-threatening situations. Once again, this is due to our overly helpful brain working with our body to keep us safe. Operating in safety-first mode, our mind sees potential danger almost everywhere, in a moody partner, a new job, a traffic jam, you name it. In addition, our mind may interpret our own thoughts, memories, and sensations as threats. This gives rise to emotions such as fear, anxiety, or panic related to flight, and irritation, anger, or rage related to fight. But there's a third one, the freeze response. Earlier, Harris had mentioned how, when we're in great pain, the vagus nerve can cut off painful feelings in the body, resulting in emotional numbness. Well, this happens when a threat is so extreme that our brain perceives fight or flight as futile. This immobilizes the body, slows down the heart and lungs, drops blood pressure, and pauses non-essential activities such as digestion. The vagus also cuts off your feelings in these awful situations, trying to spare you from terror and physical pain. So the freeze response is a powerful survival mechanism. However, freeze responses can continue to activate long after the traumatic situation is over, even many decades later, often triggered by strong emotions or painful memories. If you are experiencing this kind of trauma-related freezing on a regular basis, dropping anchor is an extremely useful practice. Numbness is the most common side effect of the freeze response, but it can also foster states such as apathy, despair, or hopelessness. Let's look at the elements of an emotion. Any emotion we experience is always comprised of three interweaving elements: sensations, cognitions, and urges. Let's explore these elements with regard to anxiety. For most, but not all of us, physical sensations in the body are a strong aspect of an emotion. For example, when feeling anxiety, we may notice muscle tension, shaking, sweating, a racing heart, and so on. Cognitions are an intrinsic element of all emotions. For example, when experiencing anxiety, we might have thoughts like, it's not going to work or something bad will happen. They might also include the following: the name we give to the experience. We may not call it anxiety, we may call it nervous, jittery, or on edge, but that's the name we give it in our brain. Also, the meaning we make of it. You may think, I feel scared, so that means I'm in danger. And the images or memories that go with it, such as memories of other times you felt afraid. Finally, all emotions come with urges. For example, with anxiety, there might be urges to worry, seek assurance, avoid or leave a difficult situation, and so on. So basically, any emotion or urge is a loose bundle of sensations and cognitions, continually interacting with each other in a myriad of complex ways. Which begs the question, do we have to obey our emotions? The answer to this is quite simply no. If we lack unhooking skills, then naturally our emotions will dominate us. But the greater our ability to unhook, the more freedom we have to choose how we behave in their presence. Whenever Harris gives a speech in public, he experiences anxiety, and yet when he reveals this to his audience, they are always amazed. But you look so calm and confident, people often say. That's because even though he's feeling anxious, having a racing heart or a churning stomach, he is not acting anxiously. He may have the urge to fidget, breathe rapidly, and talk fast, yet he does the very opposite of these things. He consciously chooses to talk slowly, breathe slowly, and move slowly. Here's the point he's trying to hammer home. Although we have little control over our feelings, we have a huge amounts of control over our actions. It's far more useful to focus on what you can control rather than what you can't. When strong emotions hook us, we might do all sorts of things we later regret. But if we consciously bring our awareness to how we're feeling and pay attention to how we're behaving, then no matter how intense our emotions are, we can switch out of obey mode and take effective control of our actions. Let's take a look at how our emotions help us. Emotions are like the weather. They continually ebb and flow. A mood refers to the general tone of emotion across a period of time. Thus, a bad mood is like an overcast day. But what's the point of emotions? How do they help us? Our emotions serve three main purposes: communication, motivation, and illumination. Let's take a quick look at each. For communication, emotions allow us to communicate to others in valuable ways. Here are some examples. Fear communicates, watch out, there's danger. Anger communicates, this isn't fair or right. Sadness communicates, I've lost something important. Guilt communicates, I've done something wrong and I want to put it right. Love communicates, I appreciate you. I want you to stay close. When we're interacting with trustworthy, caring people, such communication is often valuable. For example, if a good friend sees you're scared or sad, they'll often respond with kindness and support. Obviously, this sort of communication isn't a perfect system. At times, we send the wrong signals or others misinterpret them. But much of the time, the system works well. Our emotions also motivate us. Emotions prepare us to act in ways that are likely to be helpful and life-enhancing. Fear motivates us to protect ourselves against danger. Anxiety motivates us to prepare ourselves for things that might hurt or harm us. Anger motivates us to stand our ground. Sadness motivates us to slow down and recuperate. Guilt motivates us to reflect on our behavior. And love motivates us to be loving and nurturing. Finally, our emotions illuminate what's important to us. They alert us that something important is happening, something we need to attend to or deal with. Fear, it's safety and protection. Anger, it's standing up and fighting for what is ours. Sadness is the importance of rest. Guilt is the importance of how we treat others and repairing social bonds. Love is the importance of connection, intimacy, and sharing. When strong emotions arise, we can often extract their wisdom with two simple questions. What does this emotion tell me really matters? What does it suggest I need to attend to? However, we won't be able to access this wisdom when we're in obey or struggle mode, fighting or fleeing from the emotion, or letting it jerk us around like a puppet on a string. We first need to learn a radically new way of responding to our emotions, starting with how to turn off, I'm going to continue, the struggle switch. Imagine that at the back of your mind is a struggle switch. Now let's suppose some anxiety shows up. With the struggle switch on, we perceive that feeling as a huge problem. Oh no, says our mind, here's anxiety. I hate this feeling. I wish it would go away. So now we've got anxiety about our anxiety. Oh no, says our mind, this anxiety is getting bigger. This is awful. At this point, we might get sad about our anxiety. Why does this keep happening? Or we could get angry. This isn't fair. I hate this. So now we've got anger about our sadness, about our anxiety, However, things go very differently when our struggle switches off. Whatever emotion shows up, no matter how unpleasant, we don't struggle with it. We acknowledge it and allow it to be there. Anxiety shows up, and sure, it's unpleasant and we don't want it or like it, but we allow it. With the struggle switch off, our anxiety levels are free to rise and fall as the situation dictates. Basically, the struggle switch is an emotion amplifier. With the switch firmly on, we pull out all of our favorite struggle strategies, the ones we explored in Chapter 3. I have them here on the side. Distraction, opting out, and thinking. So, with the struggle switch off, our emotions can freely flow through us. We don't waste time and energy on struggle, and we don't create extra suffering by amplifying our emotions. But with the struggle switch on, our emotions are stuck. We waste a huge amount of time and energy struggling with them, and we amplify our emotions. Let's take a look at a quick case study as an example. Rachel is a 43-year-old legal secretary who lives with a panic disorder. If you don't know, during a panic attack, the person typically has an intense feeling of impending doom and has sensations such as breathlessness, chest pain, dizziness, sweating, faintness, and trembling. Harris says this, Rachel's major problem is not anxiety. The problem is her struggle against anxiety. As soon as she feels any physical sensation that even remotely resembles anxiety, such as a racing heart or tightness in the chest, that sensation will itself trigger further anxiety. And hey presto, vicious cycle. Rachel's world is steadily shrinking. She now avoids drinking coffee, watching thrillers, or doing any physical exercise, because all three of these things make her heart beat faster, which sets off the whole vicious cycle. Rachel's case is extreme, but to a lesser extent, we all do the same. All of us at times avoid challenges to escape the stress or anxiety that goes with them. And in moderation, this isn't a problem. But the more extensive our avoidance, the more we suffer in the long run. So how do we turn that struggle switch off? With another unhooking skill called making room. And I'm going to stop there for now. I wanted to go over my favorite parts of our two chapters. The first part that I really liked was the metaphor of emotions as weather. I really like that. Number one, because it just makes a lot of sense. You know, rain as sadness, and sunny as happiness, and wind as anger, and all that other stuff. But also from the wisdom from it. You know, we can't control the weather. We can prepare for it, and we can respond to it. We can bring an umbrella. We can lay out in the sun. We can get a coat for the wind. And then from our shorter chapter, I really liked the thing about Rachel's case, you know, where Harris had said that, Rachel is really avoiding all of the things that give her anxiety. And Harris did say that in moderation, this isn't a problem. It's only when we take it to the extreme that our world can start to shrink. I really enjoy the grace that Harris gave the audience in that moment. And with that, thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe. I put out videos like this every week, and give this video a like if you liked it. Tune in next week for Chapter 14, Making Room. I'll see you next week.